Right. What is going on today? Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate and Stuff. I'm joined here with Carlos from Investor Fuse. We're missing John today. He's out saving the lives of turtles. Um, please, please like and subscribe. You know, we do our best to come every week, regardless, to make sure we're talking real estate stuff. What's going on in the market today? What's going on in our business? So we're kicking it off today. What's going on, Carlos?
What's good, man? Good to be here. Grateful to be here. It's always fun just a Carlos Papa P episode.
Oh,
It is rainy, windy, and hurricane-esque like in South Florida. Is it the same for you over there?
Yeah, I thought I was gonna have to go cancel or do something today because I got a metal roof and I have yet to test this metal roof on a podcast with you know, the sound. It sounds like a military strike. It's just like D-Day in here. Not that I was at D-Day to relate it, but I imagine that's what it would have sounded like.
You heard it from a guy, yeah, that's funny.
I just I just pissed somebody off. They're like, "How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you relate your rain to D-Day?" Um, but no, so pretty good though. It was cold this week. It's warming up, so getting into those nice months.
Officially kicking off spring, which may have, I guess, is that traditionally the most when retail sales are in general across the country? Spring,
Yeah,
summertime.
yeah. I mean, they held rates. They held the interest rates. Did you see that? But they promised two cuts later this year, which is coincidental. We've been saying it since the end of last year, kind of beginning of this year. We've been saying they're going to do what they can for this election year. That they're waiting during they don't want to do it during the primaries, but they will be cutting rates to boost the economy when it comes time to place that fucking vote, dude.
As
They
much
know
as
how to fucking hold their ammo.
Yeah, as much as it may seem as we talk about some stuff that isn't directly real estate or wholesaling, it's interesting how so much stuff is interconnected and really does affect everything. Everything is really just a big ecosystem.
Yeah,
That high level stuff with elections and rates
exactly,
and
man.
everything like that. It's just people pulling strings and being aware of it and see how you could stack the deck in your card or rig the game in your favor.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I thought the other big news of note was, Blackstone, who's a big real estate investor. A lot of people give their funds. You see, the state of Texas is pulling all their money out of Blackstone because of their ESG and all that stuff, which they say directly goes against the Texas economy. And Blackstone's pretty pissed that they're pulling hundreds of millions of dollars out of their funds, and Texas is going to reinvest elsewhere.
Interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Did
But
not
we know
see that.
that's not gonna matter for Blackstone. They're already setting aside a couple billion to buy houses. The owner, Steve Schwartzman, made about $850 million last year in take home pay. So I mean, they're doing good. Texas just a little drop in the pond,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you'll say, just a little ripple.
Mm-hmm.
But
Little drop in
they're
the
not gonna
bucket.
they're not gonna stop.
Yeah. And what do we think about the? I guess what technically is it from NAR, National Association of Realtors? The
Dude,
and how's that going
bro,
to
don't
affect it?
even
'Cause I
get me.
think
This is
did we
bullshit.
brush on that last week?
No, but like, that
That was like
meme?
the big. Everybody's posting about that. I feel like if we have a
It's
pulse of this
stupid.
week, that's like the main
It's
thing
fucking
people are posting
stupid.
about. Break it
Here's the
down
deal.
for me what that is.
So, in my understanding of this is what you have to understand is how things were always done. I don't know who was getting paid 6%. It's like that meme where like from that one from that one movie. They're like, you were getting paid. You were getting paid. You were
Yeah.
getting paid 6%. You were getting paid at all. Like we were always negotiating. Always. There
Really?
was never, I mean, sometimes I got 6, sometimes I got 5. I know realtors who would do 4. I've done it for 3. It's always been an open negotiation. Now, what's changing is how we compensate that buyer's agent and how the buyer's agent, in a lot of states, were already requiring buyer's agents to have buyer agreements and stuff. Not in Florida. It was what do you call it? Not volunteer, optional or whatever.
Hmm.
So now they're requiring that. And the buyer now, we can't advertise the commission on the MLS. But again, I don't see how this changes anything other than making it harder for the buyer's agent and the buyers that they're representing, because if a buyer's agent isn't going to get paid, why do they want to be showing them about a bazillion houses? But the whole standpoint that it is going to reduce the cost of housing is a crock of shit.
Yeah.
That is the dumbest statement ever. That's not how that works. It's not how it works in real estate. It's not how it works in big business. It's not how it works anywhere. You don't pass the savings on to the customer. Tell me a time that's effing worked.
Yeah.
Oh, we're making the ship. The business is like the what? Who is it? Is it Lennar? Or I think it's Lennar. I'm probably messing up. Or KB Home Builder. They're building houses with 3D printing and robots now. Do you think the price of houses has come down? Oh, we're doing it without labor and we're saving money. Let's reduce housing costs. No, they're charging the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's. But I've been asked that question a lot. Like I was at the club the other day. I got asked when we were in the gym and they're asking these questions because they know I'm in real estate. The only thing I will say is I think what changes because of buyers agents. I think I've been saying it for a while. I think real estate agents are going to die off. I think it's going to be a more tech play. I think this is going to spur what E-Trade did to the stockbroker industry.
Mm.
Now, because again, there is this thing for information and ability to get there, right? Like I need to decide, figure out my trade, understand the companies, the market. I need that info, and I need the
Mm-hmm.
ability to place an order. And E-Trade came out with that, right? They gave you the ability to invest on your own, and you didn't need a stockbroker. I think there will be a tech play that comes out that solves it because the only reason why if buyers agents don't want if they're getting paid less, it makes less and less sense for them to show a home and to fight for their commission. And and when you do that, really what does a buyer need a buyer's agent for? I know the agents, they're going to argue and they're like, oh, well, I'm an expert. No, you're not. Most of you don't know what the F you're doing. You sell like 4 homes. The average realtor sells between 6 and 12. That doesn't make you an expert. It makes you better than the buyer, but I'm an expert. And most of the time you're winging it. Realtors make mistakes. Trust me, I know. So I think a tech play comes out where a lot of buyers say, I feel comfortable buying this home offline if. And that if is the big thing. So if for me is if there is something safe that makes me feel comfortable that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted on the legality and me spending my money side. And I think that's where blockchain comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're years away from adoption. I think nothing happens overnight, right? Like this is going to take years to feel the effect. And I think there's going to be someone that comes out for a way for a buyer to buy a home online and to be able to show that home. We're already doing it in the property management sector where you can remote access, change the key code, set up virtual showings. You got Matterport, 3D tours, all of this stuff. Why do I need a buyer? I was talking to a guy, like I said, and he was telling me, he's like, I don't know what my buyer's agent did. They were great. I could talk to them, but I was the one sending them what places I wanted to go see.
Mm-hmm.
Then, and that's true. Like even when I was an agent years and years ago, when tech started coming out, my role changed. I was the one finding homes, and then all of a sudden, I was getting sent. I want to go see this one. I want to go see this one. I want to go. And my job, I was like, well, what's my job other than the doorman?
Mm-hmm.
So then you make the argument, I handle your contracts. Well, what if blockchain handled that for you? Right? What if there was a service that reviewed to make sure it was legitimate? Well, I will find your inspectors for you. Well, so yeah, you know the phone number of an inspector and can schedule them for me. I think people may say, if I get that savings, I'm willing to not have an agent and do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
If that comfortability of technology makes them feel good, just like it took a while for E-Trade to catch on. People weren't comfortable initially putting their life savings, but now look at, we got Robinhood. I mean, what is that, 20 years later? When did E-Trade come out? I think it was the early 2000s. I remember I was in like high school or something when that stuff was started to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Now look, I remember the first like E-Trade baby commercial on the Super Bowl or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I think. I think not a lot has changed. I think it's a lot of hoorah rah. Me personally, I don't think I'm going to renew my NAR. You don't need to be part of NAR. That's just if you want to call yourself a realtor. Otherwise, you're not legally allowed to call yourself a realtor. You have to call yourself an agent. You could be a
Didn't
part
know
of.
that.
Well, yeah. So if you're NAR, you're a realtor. I am NAR, but I don't know why I'm giving them my money if they're just going to settle. This is a crock of shit. There was no
NAR sounds too much like NARC.
Yeah, bro. You know we used to own Realtor.com
Who's
and they
we?
sold it?
NAR
Realtors.
did?
Yeah, we owned it. Our dues,
How did they give up
everything.
that domain?
They sold it, bro. They sold the
Oh, they
whole
sold it.
thing. They sold the software, everything gone.
Hmm.
That was our thing. And they sold it. So, and what happens now? The information, and then now guess what happens? Realtor.com sells realtors their leads back. How are you protecting our effing interests, bro?
Mm-hmm.
I pay you this commission, these fees. You go and sell this software that then gets used as a weapon against me. And now I have to pay for my own leads back. Anyway, I think that's how it goes. So I think there will be savings because if that software play comes out, um, I think listing agents will eventually go to. I think there will be two types of agents, or for the people that value time over money. Um, and I've been saying this for like a year or two now. You're gonna have this whole E-Trade thing. I've just preaching it. It's like you have wealthy people who value time over the money they're gonna save. I'll give you
Mm-hmm.
six. I'll give you 10%. Handle this. Get me top dollar. Don't bother me. Send me something to sign. Boom, done.
Right.
And you're gonna have the investors. Listen, I'm making a profit. Like I don't care what you make on this. Like just find me a house. Sell my house for me. I don't have time to nickel and dime over your 3% or 6% or whatever it is. Maybe they negotiate a little bit, but either way, they still need an agent because it's more, they need to be out doing what they do. But
Mm-hmm.
you know who's in the middle? The people who love to save a buck, the
Mm-hmm.
middle
Which is
class.
majority of people probably.
The middle class. You
Mm-hmm.
don't think wealthy people, right? Like the extremely busy people are out there trying to decipher their retirement and their fucking E-Trade accounts. No, they have financial advisors. The
Mm-hmm.
stockbroker didn't go away. It just shifted its paradigm and it's only now for wealthy or business people, right? Like you need someone there and you need, if I'm extremely wealthy, I need help. I need someone to handle my estate, my affairs, my assets, my finances. I need a CPA. You need a team.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who's doing it all? The middle class. We care about saving that broker management fee and only paying $4.95 for a trade. Makes us feel powerful. And they cater to that. And I think something like that will happen in the real estate industry in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think blockchain is going to be a huge proponent of it because blockchain's already coming out to help with the title process. And I think once that does, that solves the legality of trusting whether someone has the right to sell a property or not, which then will make the buyer feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And same thing with AI. Like there's going to be people in the transaction coordination space that are just super familiar with blockchain and putting smart contracts together and all those things. So I'm 100% sold on blockchain, especially in real estate, transferring title, deeds, stuff like that. But I think there's going to be professionals and innovators, the first row of innovators that are
No.
just very knowledgeable with that stuff. What about when on the buyer side? Because I think we're both in agreement, like someone listing the property and actually marketing it and selling it and using sales negotiations to be able to get top dollar for the property that
Yeah.
they're selling for somebody is probably more valuable than the buyer's agent. Especially like when did Zillow come out? Because I mean, like even for me finding this place, it was like the same thing. Like I was on Zillow
Yeah.
doing a ton of work. I had a realtor that showed me in Brown. That was a referral from a friend. But I ended up finding my own place, negotiating my own deal, stuff like that. When was Zillow in place for people where they could just go on and make offers themselves and stuff like that?
2006 is when it came out.
Yeah.
I just Googled it. But I get what you're saying. Like for buyers, man, like buyers don't actually pay the buyer's agent, right? So it's really the listing agent or the seller that has to compensate them. That could change at some point, but I mean, dude, buyers can barely afford to buy a home, let
Mm-hmm.
alone pay an agent. Um, but yeah, you have to do. I mean, a buyer's agent is a glorified doorman, and they handle the contract for you, and they make you feel comfortable, right? Like that's the buyer's agent job is to almost treat you like a baby, and to handle everything. Hey, you need to do this, 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 and this. I'm going to remind you. I'm going to make sure it gets done. I'm going to remind you. I'm going to make sure. And that's their job. It's like handling a child. Okay, did you reach out to the mortgage broker? Did you get this? Call them, do this. Did you schedule the inspection? Did you pay for the inspection? Do you want to do this? Hey, don't forget. This is, blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. You need to do this, blah blah blah. You have the right to do this. But you know what I see? All of that can be solved with an online service solution, just like how there's the flat fee service. that came out years ago, and people are like, yeah, that caters to a lot of people. I feel there'll be a brokerage or an agent, someone who kind of breaks down this model and says, wait a second, I can sell my service online in a transaction coordinator as a licensed realtor, because they're never going to let you sell real estate without a license, right? But I have licensed realtors on the site acting like a transaction coordinator, all virtual, handling your I mean, I'm just coming up with a business idea on the top of my head right now that someone's going to come up with and make $1 billion. It's basically like a concierge, like transaction coordination site. You want to buy a home using some other type of website that you found, like a Zillow. You showed the home, you viewed the home, you want to do it, but you need help with the contracts, pushing it through, scheduling your inspections, dealing with the blockchain title process, all that. There's going to be a website where you do it, and it's going to be housed by virtual realtors that are basically, or lawyers that are basically just reviewing, making sure all your stuff's done, making sure you're staying on your deadline, because that's the hardest part. But all of that can be done virtually. Most of the time as agents, we do it all virtually. We do it from our homes. And only time I need to meet you is when, and here's the kicker, is I got to show you the home. Again, doorman. Or you're busy and I need to go let the frickin' inspector in. And I hate it. I complain about it as an agent. Oh, man, I got to go wait for this inspector for 2 hours. Bro, it's what you get paid for. So again, like I see that going away, that glorified doorman with that virtual showing ability and access with that, like I think Zillow might solve that. They'll come up with something. But then I see a transaction service platform with licensed realtors or lawyers that solve that. And then the virtual title company with the blockchain, you tie those three things together, that software product, you've now completed the entire process.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're headed towards, something very similar to that. Yeah. That's what's happening. I will also say too, I think actually I stopped by a couple times because I had some friends in town they do insurance, like personal insurance in Baltimore. They were at a event in Key Biscayne, so I stopped by there a couple nights. But a random woman I met last night said she's a realtor in Texas and sells like 12 houses a year and is in like the top like 3% of agents, almost the exact stat that you said. And I was thinking, I was like, well, if that's the case, I do want to give just what we're talking about, like with buyer's agents. I think the top tier percent of sellers, buyers agents, whatever, probably have that local market insight, certain pockets of neighborhoods, the certain level of negotiation skills. They probably do have those contacts at title companies, contractors, whatever somebody may need, where it's justified and super helpful. I think what we may see continue is just the trend of realtors getting out of the industry and just getting more people in there. So there's value.
I agree, but break down what you just said. That's not true, and it is true. So people who want a service like that, who care about their neighborhood, those again are not the people we're talking about. They have money. Most people, they're just looking for a home they can afford, and they will do their own research online to save that dollar. You don't care about value if you can't afford the value that it costs in actual real money. Value is a term people throw around for ghost money. It's just shadow money that people are like, there's value to it. And I get that, but I need to pay you real money for that value. And I don't actually have the physical paper dollar real money to pay you for that value. I'll just go do the research myself, figure out the neighborhoods that I am. And I'm going to make that choice because I can't afford to have a realtor if you have to start paying your buyer's agent and stuff. And that's why it was always like that. If that cost gets passed on to them and you have to negotiate that into the sales price of a home now, and I don't think that's where it's going. I just think people will not have a need for a buyer's agent, which will save the seller money. They'll go down to 2% for the listing agent, 3%, 2.5%. I mean, we're already getting paid 2.5%. And I can tell you, I've done deals at 1.5% before, and it doesn't make sense. I will never do it again. I've done dozens of them at that price for a company I work for. And at a certain point, you just feel abused, and you're just like, this is pointless, all the work that we do to only make that. Like, I'd rather go do something else. Then it turns into an opportunity cost situation. What else could I be doing with my time to make more money without having to deal with these headaches?
Yeah, I hadn't came across this a lot, but one of my friends that lives down here had a wholesale deal in Baltimore and asked, hey, do you have a realtor that will list something for me flat fee for like $99? And I hadn't really got asked that. I'm like, man, that seems extremely low, even if it's like an 100K row house. Like, even just
Yeah,
taking
it's
somebody's time, and
extremely low.
I'm like,
He just wants to save a buck, right? Pay the one side, pay the 2-3% to the listing or the buyer's agent, and save money. But you know what that means to me? So here's where it gets hokey, which is why there has to be like that in between software system, almost like a, oh shit, what is that car? Is it not CarMax? Where it's like there's no negotiation. Like here's the price, bro. Like
mm,
because like, do I really want to negotiate with your mom and dad who like are so emotionally tied to this property? I don't want to do that. I don't want to negotiate with Joe down the
mhm,
road to buy his house. That's a freaking headache. Sellers are headaches on their own, let alone
yeah,
now I got to negotiate directly with them as a buyer or as an agent.
yeah,
And that's why
CarMax
I hate
type stuff
flat.
would happen
Is
too.
that what it is? Yeah, flat fee service. Like I don't like flat fee listings. Like when you see that as an agent, you dread it because
Hmm.
like you're like, oh shit, I gotta call. This is the owner's number. I gotta call them, talk to them directly. Like this is gonna be a freaking headache to try to explain. And God forbid it's an old dude. Then they just want to talk to you.
Yeah, most wholesalers, would you say they're not the personality avatar of a traditional real estate agent?
I mean, if you listen to most wholesalers, most of them failed at being a realtor. Your
Really?
favorite guru, like I know multiple gurus who brag about it. Ah, I was sucked at being a realtor, never made a money, and
Mhm.
got into wholesaling and I made money. It's a special thing. I was able to be good at both, but I hated the transactional nature for the price of being a realtor, and I never saw the out. And then with wholesaling, I was able to trade transaction to transaction, but increase the revenue. I was still doing transactional, but then I was like, wait a second, I'm doing the same thing I was doing. I'm just making more money now, and I'm in charge. I don't have to answer to all and show houses and do all this stuff, right? I can
Mhm.
build a business because I'm making enough money versus only making 2 grand or 3 grand on a commission. So that's where I kind of saw that, and it's like, you know, makes sense to wholesale. I was able to transcend that, but a lot of people they don't because being a realtor is harder than being a wholesaler.
Hmm.
Because you don't.
How come?
Here, the reason why is the amount of money that you make. So you may go and spend 20K in marketing to buy somebody's house. You have a more powerful offer, right? And you're going to make more money. So you may make 20, 30K a clip. I've always been capped at the fucking, what do they, the 6% conspiracy they claimed, right? Like I was always capped at that. So 6% on a 200K home, how much am I really making?
Mhm.
Versus the average wholesale fee, the minimum typically is like 10%. So like what am I making? 12 grand versus 20 grand? That's an extra 8 grand that is my marketing budget. So as a realtor, and then on top of it, as a realtor, you have all your fees, all your license fees, your MLS fees, your dues. You have to pay your broker, pay your team leader. So you may have been making 12 grand, but you're depending on how, and if you're a new agent, which is what we're talking about, you might only be
Mhm.
getting a 70%, 60% of it. So now maybe you're walking away with 7, 8K. Okay, gas, all that stuff, right? Forget about that. How do I market? How do you feel confident marketing to get more leads, knowing that you only get to keep 60% of what you make, and what you make isn't enough to continue to market? Whereas if I'm a wholesaler, I go make 20K, I keep the whole thing. I have no fees or license fees or anything to pay, no broker to pay. And now I could take half of it. I have the same amount as a realtor. And then the other half that the realtor didn't get, I dump into my marketing and I get more
Mhm.
leads. And I can build and scale that way. With a realtor, it is extremely, you have to be braver, more courageous to market because you're making less. And so you really have to work those leads good. And a lot of it is word of mouth and referral and becoming known in your marketplace. So it's a lot harder. Wholesalers don't want to be known in their marketplace. We all brag
Mhm.
about getting referral fees, but you don't see, you might get one or two here or there, not like a realtor. The realtor works like this: you work 3 years, you're broke. You're broke for 3 years, maybe selling one or two homes a year. By year 4, you start to make money. And this is what my mentor told me. By year 4, you start to make money. But sad thing is, most people quit before they even get there. They quit by year 3. Now,
Mhm.
year 7, That's when the referrals are kicking in. People you sold houses to are now selling. They're buying again. They're telling their siblings, their brother, their mother, their sister, their friend, the lady at the church about you. And I'll shit you not, my broker at Remax, Tony, he told me that. I love that guy. Great mentor. He told me that, and I was young, and I was like 26 years old, and I was like, nah. It's played out exactly like that for me. I mean, I was making money a lot sooner than year 3, but by year 4, I had like a legit business, customers, clients. By year 7, it was all referrals. I was just picking up the phone for people who got referred to me. It's not like that for wholesalers.
Mm-hmm. Because it's one-off transactions too. Wholesaling is all 99.9% one-off transactions, where the realtor business, like, what's the average? I don't know if you know rough stats here, but like, what's the average amount of transactions that a client?
I don't know that stat. I don't know that stat. You know, I don't off the top of my head, but I mean, I've churned people 2 to 3 times.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. You know, they buy a house, they sell a house. I did the buy and sell, and then if you're lucky, you're there when they want to upgrade. And so that would be the third, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even just thinking about it, like from the most basic standpoint, you're the professional. If you have the rapport build and you serve them well, you're the person they're going to for all their real estate transactions. It's like, hey, anything I need to do real estate transactions. Some of those higher end people are going to start getting into investments. The high W-2 people are like, hey, can I buy like a turnkey rental, you know, in addition to my personal
the shit is the problem with the realtor in that, we're getting off topic, is most of them don't even have their own investment. So how the fuck are you helping an investor find an investment when you don't even own a fucking duplex yourself? Why am I listening to you?
It's a good question.
Know what you're talking
about. That's
why
it's the only top % tier of realtors, and why a lot are probably continuing to get phased
Which
out.
is why you see a lot of realtors. That was the other thing that scared me as a realtor. I saw, like, I had an ex-partner who I no longer talk to, but he was like 45, 48 years old at the time, and he was still showing homes. And I remember I was watching him, and I was young, and I was like, I don't want to be that guy. Mm-mm. And I saw a lady in my office, and I knew a guy who knew her in like the 80s and 90s when she was a young realtor, and she would still be in the office 10 o'clock at night. And I remember then she would be driving her beat up BMW to go do showings. And I remember I did one of her listings, and she was there to open the door for me and my client. And I remember, and she had to have been, I don't know her exact age, but if she was young in the 80s at this point, she was probably in her fucking 50s or 60s. And I was like, but anyway, and I was thinking to myself, I don't want to be showing homes at that age. Why aren't you free? And then, so wholesaling works that up. Moral of the story, getting back on track, that's why it's harder to be a realtor, to build that business as a referral agent and to do it on a slimmer margin than what you can as a wholesaler, and to be limited to your marketplace. Whereas as a wholesaler, I used to sell real estate from coast to coast because I was a bank agent. So I had contracts with banks and hedge funds and stuff where I was doing their properties from coast to coast. So I was rare. But like, you know how many MLSs? It is difficult to sign up for multiple MLSs. There's rules about it that I had to break through. I had to be my own broker to do it. And I was a part of all the MLSs. That was extremely difficult. Now, as a wholesaler, guess what? You use PropStream. I can wholesale the whole country. I'm not confined to just my backyard or just my county. The other problem with a realtor is it is weird. Unless you're like a luxury realtor, you're just selling middle class. I live in Lakeland. How am I showing you a home in Orlando? Why would you just not use an Orlando agent? You're going to wait for me to drive 1 hour to Orlando or to Tampa? So again, as a realtor, there's a stigma. I'm forced to sell in my area. Mm-hmm. I can't go out and sell in another metro if I'm over on this side of the state. I can't go sell homes I legally can, but who's going to use me to go show them homes I got to hop on a plane every time you want to see a house on the weekend. Whereas a wholesaler, you wholesale houses in Miami, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Nashville, you're over in Atlanta, you're doing deals in Texas, doesn't matter. And you're making more than a realtor. Mm-hmm. That's why it's harder, and that's why so many of them fail versus being a wholesaler. And wholesaling is still hard, but I'm just relating the two.
Mm-hmm. How would you do a brokerage if you had to start one today, hypothetically? How would you create a brokerage as far as like building profitable agents / realtors under you? The person that comes to mind is Ron Pineda.
I have a brokerage. Mm-hmm. And the best way to do it in the industry that it's in right now, referral business only.
Referral business only, just lean as possible marketing.
Leanest possible marketing. You refer out all your stuff, get your 25%. It's the only way to do this. I should have listened to my mentor. He ran a very large brokerage. And when I told him
Oh
I was
wait,
starting
Papa
mine,
P, you mean refer out all the business that you get to agents, or you're only getting leads from people that are referring, like you're
no,
warming
you
hot network?
refer. So okay, the real money. So what people don't understand with being a broker is you're liable for everything. Any mistake that new agent makes, you're on the hook. Your insurance, your bank account, any mistake, you got to pony up the cash for. Okay. So there's a lot that goes on with being a broker. And you're in charge. When it goes to court, you got to go with the new agent. You're as the broker in charge of that office, there's a lot of responsibility. But if I get a lead in, I can have a bunch of agents I give that to and get, I don't know, 10%, maybe 5%, maybe 15, maybe 20, just depends on your splits. Or I get that lead and I send it to some Keller Williams agent and say, here you go. Here's my lead. When you sell that home, I want 25%. I have no liability. I have nothing. That's how I think it needs to be. I'm not saying that's
Hmm.
the answer of how real estate, the industry goes, because obviously you need brokerages. Um, but yeah, when I'm going back to it, I'm sorry. Like
For you
when I told
personally,
him I
that's how
was,
you would do it.
when I was starting my brokerage, this guy, and he ran it since the 80s and stuff. And he was like, why? And I said, oh, there's so much money. And he goes, Brandon, with what you know, he's like, I wouldn't start a brokerage. It's the worst business to get into. Don't. But again, I was young. I wanted what I wanted. I was ambitious. And it took me years of running it, dealing with agents. And you start to realize, again, it's not that you couldn't make money doing it. I came back to the same scenario back then. I said, is this something that I'm going to sell down the road? Do I really see myself growing this and owning this for like, is this how my future is going to play? And the answer was no. Just dealing with the headaches of agents all the time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
anyway,
Showing
I think
showing properties and stuff on weekends when you have kids, that's not the vibe.
yeah, and then dealing with agents when they don't pick up the phone, then the customer calls the office tells you, then you got to call the agent, tell them to pick up the phone. If there's a dispute between a buyer and seller, the agent's too stupid, doesn't know what to do. Guess who you got to call? Got to call the broker. I mean, I'd pick up my phone at all hours of the nights for my agents. I'm training agents. It's just like running a bit. You're just dealing with so much, and you can have office managers and that. But again, you're not making as much as we used to.
Hmm.
Brokers used to have a higher split, but now you have discount brokerages where you come in and you only pay $200 per transaction that I sell. The broker gets $200. But as a broker, I supply you nothing. You get no help, no office manager. You don't get an office in my office. You don't get any of that. You don't get anything. And so it's again getting reduced down. And agents, rightfully so, are saying, why do I need a broker as much? So they're going for these other routes because they don't necessarily need that broker. What they need are leads, and very few brokers provide leads. Hence why I circled back and said the best thing that you could do if you're starting a brokerage is just provide the leads. And the best way to do that is to not have any of the liability and just send off the leads. You can make more than if you want it under your brand. Under your
Hmm.
brand, yes, you will build a brand, but that's an ego thing. You're not going to make more money that way. Now, people would argue and they say, well, yeah, Brandon, because even if I'm making 12% there and I give that agent two, but that agent brings in five on their own, I make money on the other five that they bring in. 100% agree. You have to bring in top performing agents to do that.
And over time, your brand though, just to play devil's advocate, your brand though over time, like the example that you're the example you're saying with your mentor of like making money by year 7. If you balance that out though, like when you're getting referrals and maybe you have your brand built, if you balance that off across 7 years, you could make an argument that you're making money there.
100%, 100%. If the agent stays with you for 7 fucking years, yeah, but good luck with that. Agents are not loyal because they don't need to be loyal to the brand like they did back in the day with social media. Now they don't need to be
Mm-hmm.
loyal to Remax or Keller Williams. Like it's a little bit different. Um, I Agents are the brand. They
Mm-hmm.
are. You don't hire an agent. Now you may, if don't know anything, you may look for a Keller Williams office because you recognize the name, or an EXP office because you recognize the name from a newspaper or the social media or something. And that's where you go for a realtor. But when you're getting a referral from Carlos, I go, Carlos, I need an agent in Baltimore. You don't go, you bro. Call Keller Williams, dude. They're the best. You go, call Josh, my buddy over there. He works at like Keller Williams or something. But Josh, dude, I've known him forever. He sold a couple of my. You give me the agent, not the brand.
Right.
And so that's the other reason what I realized is the brand is dead in there, and now EXP is trying with the what do you call it,
MLM.
multi-level, yeah, MLM and all that stuff, and they're all
Yeah.
trying their different thing, but in the end, they're all flailing about. So I think it's like the gold rush. The real estate's going to be around. The best thing is to sell the pick and axes and not
Mm.
try to actually go mine for the gold. It's not like mining for gold was great when you were the first miner out there, just like Remax, Keller Williams, all these companies back in the 80s, Coldwell Banker, they owned it in the 80s and 90s and they banked, just like Merrill Lynch did with the stockbrokers back in the fucking 70s and 80s and stuff. They
Mhm.
banked money for 30 years. Technology displaced them. And I think that's what's happening to brokerages. You're missing out on money over the next few years because there's still a need for it, but I think tech will displace that.
I can see that. And what I'm thinking in my head too, just when we talk about it, like realtors, they have their own personal brand that's facing their clients, like the sellers and the homeowners. Wholesalers have their personal brand that's facing like the wholesaling community. I guess somewhat though, the sellers,
Mhm.
like some people, like we
But
think of
again,
Eric Brewer, guest on the show, like he has like a billboard with himself as an emoji and it's like Eric buys houses or whatever. But for the
yeah, he's
most
done it.
part, wholesalers aren't branding themselves to customers. Maybe that's not true though.
It's not true. I mean, they are and they aren't.
Not in the same way that agents do.
The majority of them are not. The really good ones that have reached the upper echelon are, TV ads are really branding again in their local market. Think
Mhm.
about Mark Spain. He's done a great job with his guaranteed offer situation in
Mhm.
quasi realtor investor type of action. Um, it's just I'm not saying I'm right, man. Like I know people crushing it as brokerages and stuff, and you can make a lot of money. You scale up. Realtors need to be housed. I just thought there was a better way to do things and make money without the
Mhm.
headache of agents. Now, I think it's great to have one or two agents on your team, and they're quasi agents. They can help you with listing, especially if you're an investor.
Mhm.
Like they can help you with listings, they can help you MLS access, they can do stuff for you, list your properties, find you deals, but you can also help them. Like you got a family office, it'd be nice to have one or two agents on your team and they're investing, they're helping, you're bringing them in on deals, they're learning along the way. But dude, to have a whole corral of like 30, 40 agents,
Too much.
it is for me. And for what and for how long?
What do you think about like the Ryan Pineda? What it seems like his model is of like teaching realtors how to like invest in wholesale and buy rentals and stuff.
I think I don't really know what that model is, but I think that's good. I think,
Mhm.
and a lot of it's not just Ryan Pineda, dude, but like a lot of people are like, listen, realtors, like, real estate, go get better. But I troll my Facebook page, right? And I'm a part of like a local realtor group. The problem with realtors is, what's the word? Like, they're ignorant. They have the ability to know, but they don't actually go out and know. Like they have the ability to go learn without the desire to go learn. And so like you'll see in here like, oh, you guys getting these sub two calls? Such scammers. Scam. Oh yeah, right. Take over my mortgage. That's a scam. It's not even legally possible. And they all gang up and they're like, oh yeah, F them. And it's not. Listen, I'm not a proponent of sub two, but I hate when people make statements without having the intelligence to understand what they're actually responding to. Like it's not illegal. It's not a
Mhm.
scam. It can be done. So don't sit here and say it is just because you're not intelligent enough to go figure it out. And that is the 87 or 90-ish% of the realtor market. Now, they're just old, middle aged, or even younger and just ignorant of what else can be because that's not what they're trained to do. I think what Pace Morby and maybe Ryan, I don't know what Ryan's doing, but like there's a couple of them out there that are like, hey, the realtors, if you want to know how to do this, come on, like let me show you. Like we had a deal up in Jacksonville, and I got referred over to Josh from CG. Like I was messaging in the I forget, I think it was Eric Brewer's Facebook group. Someone from CG referred me to a realtor that's in CG that's out of Jacksonville. I talked to him and we ended this long convo where he's like, yeah, I run a big team, I'm down and willing to help me with my novation. And we just started talking about how he wants to invest. And I guess that's why he joined CG. And so there you go, right? Like you got this agent who's successful, right? Successful agent building a team. And he realizes this is not the end all be all. I need to go invest. So I'm joining a mastermind. How many realtors do that? Again, probably only 10 to 12% of them have that ability or want to go do that. And I wouldn't even say 10 to 12. I'd probably say maybe like 10, because I would say the top 1 or 2% are making so much money that they don't need to go do that. They're making so much money, do luxury agents, big agents. They're doing what they're doing, regardless of buying a fucking flip to do a flip.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That's like the one they ended up rescheduling the meeting, but a few weeks back I mentioned there's a big Baltimore realtor, one of the biggest Baltimore realtors, that's just kind of hearing more of wholesalers and stuff like that. He's like, I kind of want to dip my hands in here. So started sending out like 5 to 6K of direct mail a month, stuff like that. I see him crossing paths with some other like wholesaling SaaS type people I know. I'm like, this is interesting convergence of two worlds here, the realtor and the wholesaling world.
What you should tell your realtor, and maybe he's already figured this out, but the real benefit, and I was telling this to Josh, the real benefit of being a realtor with a connection to other agents is if you get an agreement drawn up, like a pretty standard, maybe you open up another LLC, you probably should have an LLC for referrals. Anyway, long story short, and I'm assuming you're a broker too, you're like a licensed broker in your own right, so you don't have to run through a brokerage. But anyway, long story short is every lead that you get, you classify it as cold, warm, or hot. So that's what we used to do, right? Cold, warm, or hot. And then in there's instructions about what the lead is, where it came from, and what you should do as an agent. And then you refer that out. Now, that direct mail may not produce enough leads, but you start doing other marketing, and you now could get your 25%. So you increase your profit per lead, and you're sending out these leads that you don't really give a shit about. I don't need to verify that this person wants to sell to a realtor today. I just need to know they're considering it, and I got the right phone number. Guess what? Let the realtor go do their job. That's what realtors get paid for. Their job, what they're trained to do, is to follow up for like fucking year or two. That's it. Knock on the door. They're local. Let me go knock on the door. Mary, are you ready yet? Mary, you talked to someone, said you were thinking about selling your house one day. I'm here, Mary. Let me drop off my marketing materials. Let me show you, let me drop this off. Let me give you a mug, and let me give you a magnet for your fridge.
Fridge, you beat me to it.
Yeah. I had those, bro. Here's an
Orioles schedule on here. Baltimore Orioles schedule.
I was trying to see if I had one out here. I have fridge magnets. I still have these. I bought so many of them.
Running Man.
Yeah, Running Man. And I'd have posts. I'd drop them all off all the time. And guess what? You don't care what happens to that lead, because eventually they snowball. And then the realtors they're just happy they're getting fed leads because they don't have enough money to generate their own leads. And you're happy that your leads just aren't getting trashed. And then because you're a realtor, you get 25% kickback. So now like 8 months later, you just start having closings happening. And you're getting $1,100, $1,500, $800, $2,000 checks just coming in, and they're just doing the work and they're happy. That's what I think the real benefit of being an agent and doing wholesaling is. And I don't think a lot of people can. I bet you, Eric Brewer, I guarantee does. He's an intelligent and successful man. I'm sure he's doing that, plus with the novations and stuff, but I'm sure they're doing that. And there's some other offices I know that do that with the retail side, but too many people are not doing that. And I think agents could really outplace wholesalers if they got on board with it. That's the other thing in the Facebook group is like they're always arguing about, oh, my phone's always blowing up with cash buyers, blah, 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 blah. They want people who pay cash for houses. Have you heard of this hedge fund? I'm not selling to these hedge funds. Who's that? And it's like, how stupid do some of you have to be? And I love it when 30 agents get on a thread complaining about something an investor is doing, and and it's just like, dude, this is why you're not making money and you have more time to spend. I don't have time. Why do you have time to comment on Facebook all day? I have time to troll you. I have time to troll you though. Why I'm dying.
Yeah, start doing Facebook lives in there and just trolling everybody. Go live inside the realtor group.
Yeah. Anyway. I get passionate when it comes to realtors because I just feel like they get a bad rap, but so many of them are just horrible. I also
Yeah.
think
You know
that
that
this
game though
thing,
too. You know that life.
I lived that life for a
Yeah.
I was very good at it and I lived it for a very long time. Um, I just didn't want to do it. I just wish I would have listened to my broker sooner, you know,
Hmm.
but you live and learn when you're young.
You do. You live
You
and
don't
learn your
know
whole
shit.
life. You live
Yeah.
and learn your whole life, man.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna
Um,
be in your neck of the woods for Family Mastermind this coming week. Probably
yeah.
rolling there Sunday. Pretty
Oh
stoked for
yeah.
that. Mhm. Pretty
I
stoked
dig
for that.
that.
Always good. That's like really good presentations. Like Jason Hartman, for example, is he does a ton of like turnkey rentals and some other business where he's in multiple markets. He always gives really good like market analysis, going what's going on. The last thing, what was he talking about? I guess it was he was talking about. I think he termed it like a ghost buyer, lack of supply and demand, like the lack of unqualified buyers matched to the property that they would typically want if interest rates were more in their favor. Like there's a lack of demand of people, and then the other end of that is the people not wanting to move because they have good debt on their property, like low interest rates from the last few years. So he always gives. That was a poor way of phrasing it, but I think you're with me. Anyway, he's one of the people that always gives a market analysis update, which I look forward to.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Yeah, there's people out there waiting on the sidelines because they think rates are coming down, and they probably
Mm-hmm.
are because of the election year and all that. But it's like, I don't know. I Something's got to happen in this market. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of this stuff is just wild. I don't know what's going to happen, but I believe there's people sitting on the sideline and waiting. I think I don't think interest rates would stop me if I want to move. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I have to move, I have to move. I'm not going to keep a house just because. I was
Mm-hmm.
reading this post. Oh, shit. I don't know where it was. Anyway, I was reading this post, and this guy was complaining about his realtor, and he was like, there's a couple parts to it, but anyway, his realtor convinced him buying this house, and I think it was a condo. Pretty sure it was a condo, actually. Buying this condo was okay, and guess what? Like, you're going to get in it at a great rate, and all else fails, if you have to move, you can rent this thing out. And that's the general consensus, right? I got a 2.5% interest rate. Like, even I'm not going to sell. I'll just move and I'll rent this out. My realtor will rent it out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's what this guy basically said. And he gave his horror story. And he's like, I'm trying to sell this property now. I need to. He's like, over the time that I've owned it, I've made no money. It's actually cost me money. He's like, what my agent neglected to tell me is all the stuff involved in renting out a home. He was like, and it's all the stuff we've talked about on here. He's like, one, and this is why I remember it was the condo fees, right? You rent it out, and then he's like, I'd rent it out, and then I got to pay a management fee. By the time that was done, I pay my mortgage. I get little to no money every month. And when one thing goes wrong in that property, I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
pay for it. So most of the time, I never made money, but I still had to pay my agent to rent it out for me. And he goes, I found out that my agent was, I guess, listing it really high, and she would show the home, telling he or she, whatever, would show the home and tell those prospective tenants that, hey, it's okay. You probably don't like this. It's priced too much. I have units on other floors
Oh my gosh.
that are cheaper. So he said, then I would lose money because I'm still paying my mortgage. Why it would sit vacant for months? And eventually over the time, and he just went and sold it. And I was like, that's so true. These people get sold this bill of goods that you buy a house and no matter what, you could rent it out. It's not like houses are horrible rentals, one, in my opinion, but that's because I'm biased. But two, like at the rate you probably bought it at in the last few years to get that interest rate, you probably paid top dollar for it. You
Mm-hmm.
probably overpaid.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if your numbers are going to mesh with what, like a rental. I talked to a buddy of mine out in Idaho, and he needed to move to Tennessee or Kentucky, but he had like a 2 point something rate, 3% rate or whatever. And he was like, what should I do, Brandon? And I was like, we did the math and everything. And he might have cash flowed like $200 or $300. And I was like, bro,
But the problem is he wasn't sure he could get out what he put into it because the market was softening in 2023 at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like we were at that
Mhm.
point in the market, and I gave him the truth. I was like, dude, like you can rent it, that's fine, but you have to understand, like you don't know where the market's going, and two, one bad thing goes wrong, and like you're ponying out of pocket for that. I go, one, personally, if it's in my opinion, like I would sell it if I think I could get out what I put in. If I'm willing to lose some money, then I'd sell it anyway. If you don't want to lose money and you can't get out what you put in and renting's your only option, then dude, do it. Just understand you might not make any money and you might lose money if there's anything that goes wrong with it. And that's the situation I think a lot of people are in. Is
Mhm.
his situation is like, I want to move, but like, can I keep this as a rental? Because that's what everyone said. If you remember the social media posts, lock it in now, buy it. Can always be a rental later.
Mhm.
Build your portfolio, buy one, and move into another one.
Mhm. What did he end up doing?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I haven't talked to him since.
Huh. Hopefully
He's
he's alive and well.
he might not be. Um, he has a pretty dangerous job, but I don't know. It's one of those buddies where like we talk maybe 2, 3 times a year. We play phone tag for like months at a time until one of us has something in our schedule where we catch each other, and then we end up talking for like an hour or two, and then like you,
Mhm.
you always like, wow, we gotta do this more often. And then you play phone tag again for like another like 3 because we're adults. We each have shit going on. But
Mhm. That's like the old school conversations, like when cell phones weren't as relevant, when you just had like house phones. I was talking to somebody. Was that maybe? No, it wasn't you this week because we didn't have a pre-show this week. But um, about bringing house phones back. Was it last week we were talking about stuff coming back full cycle?
100%,
House phones
yeah,
would
we
be
talked
cool.
about that. House phones need to come back. I
Only if
think they
people have
will.
access
Yeah,
to it.
we
That's
talked
like
about this.
your
Yeah, yeah. House
yeah.
phones need to come back because I was talking about it with my father-in-law over the weekend. We were chit-chatting about like how, because he's in construction, and we were just talking about like I'm so sick and tired of people having my phone number. Like sometimes tenants get it, blah blah blah, clients, customers, whatever. I was like, I have been thinking about getting another phone with a number that only my family knows, just like that I carry on me on the weekends. And like I could put this phone down. I talked to another guy that I do business with. He was saying the same thing. He's like, I'm getting to a point where like nothing's going to happen over the weekend. In my point in business, that I
Mhm.
think I'm just going to shut my phone off and leave like an automated message or something that says I'll be back on Monday. And like, and I'm like, yeah, dude, like I want another phone for that. Like I'm sick and tired of like my phone just blowing up, and then you have to check all the time who is it, and you never
Mhm.
use it to sign up with anything online. Never put your home phone or your other like I think home phones could be good for that. No spam calling. It's not registered anywhere.
Mhm.
No annoying text messages.
I've been getting an uptick. I don't know about you. The last
Yeah.
week or two, I've definitely been getting an uptick in like the automated texts and just the amount of times I'm texting stopped the last 2 weeks. I'm like, man, isn't this supposed to be more challenging? I guess when it's like big business, they have loopholes, but
No, it's the opposite. Big business was not doing it because there was no guidance. This is my opinion. Before, big business wasn't doing it because there was no guidance and it was the wild, wild west. Big business is not about exploring the wild, wild west. They're about maintaining and preserving what they have. Once the government outlined the rules and regulations for it and made a process for it, big business said, oh, now we can't get sued if we follow this. Let's just do that. And now let's fucking blast everybody.
yeah.
And from that moment, I'm getting destroyed by I get more now than I did before they passed the TCPA shit.
Same,
Yeah,
same.
because big business is like, now we know what to do. Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you, government, for helping me out.
I'm just typing back
So
stop.
that's what I do. I'm just like, I know the game. Like a lot of people don't. I'm like, don't even get angry. Just type the word stop and you're done. You're done. Same thing when I pick up my phone and I hear that pause. Because like you're switching from a dialer. I just hang
Mhm.
up. I don't even wait. I'm like,
That's
oh,
so
there's the
funny.
click. It's a
That's
dialer.
so funny. You know that world so well too.
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
calling you on properties?
Probably. I mean, I got a cash offer the other day on my house for 188. I told my wife. She's like,
The
"Oh,
one
you
that you
did?"
live
I was like, "Yeah,
your personal
yeah, the one
residence?
I live at. Yeah,
Oh,
the
dude,
one I
that's
live at."
hilarious.
I was like, "Cool, dude. It's cool." I was like, "I dig it." I saw this great piece of mail. I'm getting off topic here. Um, But first, I do dig the house phone thing. I think you're correct on that.
Yeah,
We should start it.
I'm
But
down with that.
I got this good piece of mail, and I didn't bring it with me. My wife opened it. I was going to try to preserve it, but she was eager to open it, which only shows how good of a piece of mail this was. And my mom even knew about it because she got one too at her house. So again, now you're relating the same piece of mail, and she remembered the name. She was like, yeah, I got something like that from blah blah blah," and she named it. And she looked at the envelope. It's the same one, and I'm like, wow, this is really good marketing. So it's a piece of envelope, looks just like a business type of thing, just so you're like. But on the back, there's a big circle and a clear piece of like what do you call it, like cellophane plastic or whatever, and there's a dollar bill in there,
Hmm.
a real dollar bill. They put a dollar bill in the envelope. You know what everyone's done probably? Open up that piece of mail and read to get to that dollar. My
Mhm.
mom knew exactly what company it was. My wife pulled it out of the stack of junk. It was all junk mail, Carlos, all of it. I set it aside. It was the fucking flyers and the big postcards, from the stores with their discounts and the
Mhm.
hospital stuff and medical. And she pulled it out, and they're sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, look at this! This is a real dollar." And I'm like, "It's probably not a real dollar." I'm yelling from the kitchen. They're like, "It's real." My mom's like, "It's real. I got one in my house. That's a real dollar." So and so, and I'm thinking, this is genius.
It is.
Whoever came up with this, phenomenal. Because when I do direct mail, when I used to, I would always teach about getting past the open. First, you got to get past the trash on the way into the house, right? Because as you're walking, you're shifting through, just throwing everything out. You bring
Mhm.
everything inside to give it a second look over and see if you want to open it. And they got past the open because of the $1 bill, and it was a real dollar bill. So now you figure, what they spend? Probably like a dollar or something on the letter and the envelope at bulk, and then another dollar. So they doubled their marketing costs, but I guarantee they probably like quadrupled. They probably 100x their open rate.
Oh yeah, 1,000,000%. Some people put fake
Yeah,
money in there, like a fake bill or
I,
like a.
I'm.
I've seen
I
those.
agree. I thought it was fake. I thought, but like it wasn't. It was.
Yeah, but
It
it's not as
looked
effective. And
real.
now you're talking about it on a
Now I'm talking
podcast. Who
about
knows
it.
everybody else is? Who knows everybody else that's talking about? No, that's
Yeah,
that's amazing marketing.
we need to message our friends over there. You know who's always creative with direct mail is our friends at Ballpoint Marketing. Someone needs to
Hmm.
message him because I feel like he would probably come out with something. Like, he's always got cool ideas.
100%. That is cool.
But yeah,
Was it a real
dollar.
estate person or something else?
No, it was I don't know per se. I was only eavesdropping from the kitchen. It was what do you call it? They wanted you to do a survey. So they were paying you $1 to open
Hmm.
it up and do a survey and something like that. I don't know. I think you had to log online and complete a survey for them.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, the one that I got for my house, I opened it because again, it was interesting. It looked like a check. And one, I wasn't expecting a check. I was just like, what the fuck is this? So it had the sides of it's glued shut, so it's not a regular envelope. It's got like the blue printer lines on the front, like it just came off
Hmm.
like an old school dot matrix printer, and it
Hmm.
has those sides to the thing. You remember you used to peel off the sides on the original printer paper? You
Hmm.
used to have to peel the edges off. That's what it had. So you had to peel like a real bank check. You had to peel. I'm like, this is interesting. I wonder who, and there was no name on it. It didn't say cash offer or anything. It just had like a P.O. box address, the my info, nothing else. I'm like, I wonder who this is. And I open it up and it says 188,000, like 600 or whatever. And I open it up and, because the glue, you got to open it up again. And it was, I can't think of the name of Home Buyer R Us or whatever, and it was nicely laid out. It got me to open it. I read it. I was like, this is not a bad mailer either. Um, I was in the mood for checking out mailers. I was just like, this is interesting to me. I like to check out the competition. I thought that was one of the better ones. I mean, I get them all the time for my properties, but like those ones, they caught my attention.
The dollar mail piece, was it clear, that clear part you could see through the letter and see there was a dollar in
That's
there?
that's why that's why. So again, my whole thing when I teach about like marketing, and it's even with cold calling, it's the same strategy. First, you get past the trash. On cold calling, it's the hang up. Then you get past the open, which on cold calling is your introduction. In mail, it's getting inside and opened at the kitchen counter. I was gonna throw it in the trash. I was by the trash can, right? When I got them all on the same day. I was going to throw it out. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring this in. what is that? Is that a real dollar? So I saw it because it was clear, and I'm like, and I kind of held it up. I'm like, it looks fake. I'll bring it inside. And I set it on the table, and that's when they went and opened it while I was in the kitchen, and they're talking about it. And I was like, this is interesting. This is an interesting concept of marketing piece. I like it. I don't do direct mail anymore, but like, I dug that piece of marketing. I think it makes sense, like, probably on a cost basis, doesn't make sense. It's what we were talking with
Andy?
Go Big, yeah, Andy. Doesn't make sense on like a blasted out to an absentee list type thing. But like if I was doing it for mobile home parks, RV parks, you got a smaller list, maybe 1,000, and that's all you're doing. That's your mailer every month. So I'm going to spend maybe $2,000 to send this list out every single month for a year, like $2,000 a month. That makes sense to me. Like a smaller niche list, like I get you to open it. I get you to open it. Now maybe you notice every month you're getting $1, and you're like, this guy just keeps sending me money every month.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was brainstorming how I could utilize their marketing for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good I thought it was, I guess is all I'm saying. Like I respected it.
Yeah, that's very solid. If they send that my way, I'll put that $1 towards some Aldi's grass-fed steaks when I get a chance.
Did you go to Aldi's?
I didn't yet. I forget what I was doing.
Did we talk about that on the air?
Oh, the last time, yeah.
Yeah, our audience knows.
Uh-huh.
Bro, I thought about you because that Sunday I went to Aldi's, or Saturday I went to Aldi's, and bro, I got so much meat. I've been eating meat every freaking day, dude. I'm just eating meat, bro. We bet.
Do a fast here soon. I'm down when I get back from Tampa to do a fast.
You need to go to Aldi's and get some of that grass-fed butter. Your muscles are looking a little small, dude.
I'm
a little small.
Are they? I need to get some more steak in me then.
You need to get some fucking, what do you call it? Some bicep curls. Their steaks, dude, I scooped up probably like 8 or 10 of them. I mean, they come in a 2-pack, and you just grab them, and it's like $11 for a 2-pack. It's like $5 a steak. It's like grass-fed, organic, and it's just boom, dude. Like,
it's the simple things in life, man. Just some good quality butter, some good quality steaks after a nice putting in a hard day's work. And
what type of bread do you use?
Sourdough.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
Sourdough.
That's all we do now in this house.
4 or 5 ingredients.
You have to check the ingredients. So we get the ones in the Publix bakery. The bake at home sourdough is the only one that we'll buy because the ingredients. If you buy the already sliced one that they make back there, that has too many ingredients to preserve it. So you have to buy the one that's in a loaf. And then we also get it ordered online, but like frozen, like sourdough loaves. And then you just we're not at the point of doing it ourselves in home. But like sourdough, dude. Sourdough with some grass-fed butter, some olive oil, a steak, ground beef, maybe some chicken, whatever it is. That's basically it. That's how I'm living now.
That's a king's meal. That's a good way to do it. Just wait to have your bread, like just have like all meat like during the day, and then at the end of the night have bread with some butter and olive oil and a steak. That's a royal meal right there, Puppy.
It really is. It really is. It's a luxurious thing.
I hope our listeners eat as well as Papa P and I do. I'll definitely be at Aldi's. I will 100% get that soon. I had some visitors in town this past weekend, so I didn't get to shoot over there, but I definitely will.
Yeah, they got some good stuff. You should definitely go. But
I'm down.
This was a productive meeting. We really harped on the realtors the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the pulse. That's what the majority of stuff people are posting is about that.
How about my man Trump?
What's he been doing this week? I haven't seen anything this week.
This is a crime. Listen to this. So listen to this stupidity. What boggles my mind is the fact that she's got cancer. Breaking news: royal family, Princess of Wales has cancer. Well, that's probably why she disappeared, bro. She doesn't want to be bothered. Leave her alone. But so the whole judgment thing. He's got to post $454 million bond, right? Because they claimed Mar-a-Lago was only worth $18 million. Okay, get this. So they had a realtor who's against Trump, right, on CNN, which is anti-Trump, literally talking about seizing his assets on how Mar-a-Lago is worth $250 million or $230-some million, and if the government seizes it, they can rake in hundreds of millions of dollars from seizing it. And I said, and they put it on the TV, value. And they said, I'm like, the whole case is built on the fact that New York only thinks it's worth $18 million. And here, CNN and everyone who hates Trump is like, yeah, we're gonna get it. It's worth 200-some million. I'm like,
Their
how does
argument's
this
like
even?
collapsing on itself,
But
catching themselves red-handed.
But again, like that's what's crazy about our society is like it's in our face what's happening, and it's not about liking Trump at this point. It is so blatantly obvious of what's going on, and they're just like open about it, and no one's saying shit. I mean, there are people saying stuff like Kevin O'Leary, a lot of the bigger people, they're all up and like, this is like New York about to seize assets right now. And then when I saw that on CNN, and I was like, it's like, is that not? You're making the case for New York and then saying that this house is worth 10 or like 10 times more than what the judge told him it was worth, and then called him a liar because of it. It's insane.
Humans are fascinated creatures, easily influenced by media narratives that are driven by
Yeah.
power.
I mean, there's some stuff that doesn't make sense on his part. Like there's part where he said that he doesn't have the cash to put it up. But then, like, he had testified in April, like they had like $400-some million in like liquid assets they could use, and then but his lawyers are arguing that he doesn't have the cash. So like then later on they're arguing they don't have the cash, yada yada yada. This is unconstitutional. But then he made a tweet or something that he has scrounged together the cash. So like things don't add up in that. Now I'm sure it's more complicated than that, knowing how complex his business stuff is. But like some things don't add up. Like, do you have the cash? Do you not? Like, one, you're not that rich. Like he's wealthy, but like he's wealthy because of his assets, but like he's not Elon Musk like rich. He's not like Zuckerberg rich. He's like real estate rich, which if you're in real estate, you understand what real estate rich is. Like
he's wholesaler rich.
No, wholesaler rich is different. Real
I'm
estate
joking.
rich is like you own a lot of assets and like you're reinvesting everything into the buildings and all that, but like yeah, you may be net worth multi-millions, but like cash wise, maybe not unless you burr that thing out. And that's Trump. He's worth 2 point some, but he's always been worth 2. He's never grown his wealth crazy.
Hmm.
You know, like Elon and like Zuckerberg, like Bezos, their wealth keeps growing. Trump's always been around that 1, 2, 3 billion range. Like he's never drastically, which is kind of disappointing. I thought about it the other day, I'm like, that's not really saying much for his business acumen.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about it, like I'm not saying he's a bad businessman. I'm just saying you're worth that much money and you've never been able to multiply it that greatly like other billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought back to a TV show that John and I love, Silicon Valley.
Love Silicon Valley.
The billionaire, right, in the Three Comma Club was bragging about being a billionaire, but he became a billionaire like a decade and a half ago or whatever, a decade ago. And he's still worth like $1 billion. And he's bragging about how great he is. And the one guy broke the math
He even
down.
dips. He even dips
Yeah,
down.
he dips.
He says, I'm in the 2 Comma Club now. He's like, I need to get back into the 3 Comma Club.
He's like, and I made this much money, and the guy breaks it down. I forget, I'm making this up, but he's like, so you've made 0.00 something % on your money every year? That's not that good. And that's what I thought of Trump the other day when I was reading stuff, and I was like, you would think if you had like a bill, you'd be able to like just keep adding the bees on. I don't know.
What is that guy's name?
What, the billionaire from
Russ
Silicon
Hanneman.
Valley?
Russ
Russ Hanneman. Yeah,
he's the man.
I love that character.
Same. Oh,
I love that
great.
TV show. Yeah.
Same. Great show.
That's a great show, dude. I love that show. I've watched it multiple times.
It's a great show. Cool, man.
Anyway.
Well, good episode jamming on realtors and such. That seems to be the percent going down or negotiable. What you pay them seem to be the hot topic of this week.
Yeah, it is. Everyone's posting about it. Everybody's talking about it. I just don't know who's getting 6% to begin with. That's just I'm wondering who those lucky agents were that were getting 6%. I mean, there's some, but you know.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. Well, have a great weekend, folks. Treat yourselves to some Aldi steaks and grass-fed butter if there's one in your area, guys.
Lock and load.